Lord of Mysteries 2, Circle-of-Inevitability. Chapter 133, Suffering. Lumion couldn't make sense of it, but he didn't dwell on it either. He rolled up his sleeves, baring his right arm, and sliced it with the fallen mercury blade. A brief moment of numbness was followed by a familiar pain, but he didn't flinch. He watched as blood oozed out and stained the silver-black blade crimson. Almost instantaneously, a mercury illusory river, composed of intricate symbols, materialized before Lumion's eyes. The destiny droplets stored in the evil dirk seeped from its tip and flowed into the shallow wound. Lumion concentrated, straining to discern the fate he sought to exchange. He saw himself receiving treatment, saw himself falling asleep after releasing his emotions, and saw himself searching for Ostatrull. Scenes flashed across Lumion's mind as if he had witnessed them firsthand. Soon after, he located the fate of venturing outside the catacombs and encountering the Monsurus ghost from several days prior. He swiftly raised the tip of fallen mercury and thrust it towards the complex symbols that appeared to be formed by the Mercury River. That fate proved heavy, and Lumion failed to stir it on his first attempt. As the illusory river slowly faded, the scene in his mind became increasingly hazy. He hurriedly channeled most of his spirituality into the blade of fallen mercury. At last, with a second stir, the fate of meeting the Monsurus ghost broke free from the illusory, mercury-hued river and shrank into a minuscule droplet, resembling a bead of mercury from a shattered thermometer. The illusory droplet rapidly merged with the pewter black dirk. Only then did Lumion exhale a sigh of relief. He knew he had evaded the Monsurus ghost, and fallen mercury could now be deemed a cursed blade. Once he treated the wound, an odd intuition suddenly struck him. Guided by this intuition, Lumion exited Albert's du Coq door again, weaving between raucous drunks and a heated brawl. He returned to Rue du Rossignol and halted outside the alley where he had assaulted Margot. Furrowing his brow, he cautiously entered and flipped over the barricade. In the next moment, Lumion's gaze instinctively fell upon the shadow in the corner. Something lay quietly in the realm of darkness. Sensing its significance, Lumion hurried over, crouched down, and picked up the object with his gloved left hand. It was a bulging brown leather wallet. Margot dropped it? The money his underlings plundered and handed over to him? Lumion roughly grasped how the fate exchange had transpired. Although he couldn't recall whether Margot had dropped the wallet during their fierce battle or if it had fallen afterwards, it didn't prevent Lumion from claiming the money. He extracted the thick wad of cash and emptied the gold, silver, and copper coins from the change purse. Then, he tossed the wallet aside and left the alley. Back in Albert's du Coq door room 207, Lumion lit the carbide lamp and meticulously counted his newfound fortune. In total, he had acquired 1,265 vel d'or and 15 copet. Most were banknotes worth 10 vel d'or or less. There was only one 200 vel d'or note, one 100 vel d'or note, and two 50 vel d'or notes. A few louis d'or were included as well. Lumion stared at the money for a few seconds before sighing deeply. Even 10 donations from benevolent souls can't compare to taking down a gang leader. Naturally, not all of the money belonged to Margot. He was merely holding onto it for the poison spur mob. Lumion grabbed a stack of small bills amounting to 200 vel d'or and left room 207, climbing the stairs. In under a minute, he reached the 4th floor and came to a stop in front of room 8. He recalled that Margot had visited Albert's du Coq door in the evening to collect most of the money from an unlicensed prostitute named Ethans. At the time, one of Margot's underlings must have been in charge, but the money eventually ended up in Margot's possession. Without knocking, Lumion crouched down and slid the stack of banknotes through the gap beneath the door. He quickly straightened up, turned towards the stairs, and vanished into the shadowy corridor. Lumion slept until 6 o'clock when the cathedral bell chimed. He had slept soundly the night before, feeling as if the provoker potion had been somewhat digested. In the morning, I'll look for Ostatrull and see if Mr. K has replied. I'll also buy some better clothes and cosmetics from Quartier de l'Observateur. In the afternoon, I'll visit the cheap clothing store at Le Marché du Quartier du Gentleman. Lumion wasn't eager to rise. He lay there, quietly contemplating the day's plans. Having escaped the threat of the Monsurus ghost, he placed disguising himself back on his to-do list. After lingering in bed for a while, he ambled to the washroom to freshen up. Then, he went downstairs and purchased half a liter of apple cider and a loaf of bread with pork sausages from the vendors. Having sated his hunger, he headed to the nearest cathedral square and found an empty corner to practice the combat techniques Aurora had taught him. Lumion returned to Aubert's du Coq d'Or at 9:30 a.m., intending to rest for an hour before seeking out Asta Troll. Upon entering the motel lobby, he spotted 3 maids cleaning various filthy areas under Madame Fels's supervision. The motel owner hires cleaners every Monday. Lumion averted his gaze and walked towards the staircase. At that moment, footsteps echoed from above. Within 10 seconds, Charlie appeared before Lumion, clad in a linen shirt, dark pants, and strapless leather shoes. "You didn't go to the hotel?" Lumion asked, puzzled. Charlie yawned and replied excitedly. "Don't you know? I'm off today. We can take 1 day off a week and choose whichever day we want." Lumion chuckled. "Does this day off result in a reduction in your monthly salary from Madame Alice?" Charlie grinned sheepishly. "She has her own social engagements." As they conversed, a foul odor drifted in from the door. The short, disheveled, gray-haired Ruhr and Michel entered the hotel. "You didn't go to the steam locomotive station?" Charlie greeted them warmly. Ruhr approached them first, then maintained a respectful distance. "The market district is a bit chaotic today. We plan to rest for a day." "What happened?" Lumion inquired. Curiously. Ruhr instinctively lowered his voice. "Margot of the Poison Spur mob is dead. Many gangsters are searching for someone. Other gangs might clash with them at any moment. There are also many police officers present." "Margot's dead?" Charlie blurted out, astonished. He had just thought the guy deserved to die yesterday, and now he was dead? Ruhr nodded gravely. "I've heard several people mention it. Sigh, we can't earn any money today." His wife, Madame Michel, consoled him. "If we don't go out, we don't have to eat lunch. We can save some money." Before Lumion could inquire about the situation outside, Charlie, snapping out of his daze, spun around and dashed upstairs. Lumion's eyes flickered as he trailed behind. Thud, thud, thud. Charlie rapidly ascended to the 4th floor and sprinted to room 8. Taking a deep breath, he slammed the wooden door. "Who is it?" A slightly hoarse female voice emerged from within. Charlie announced his name loudly. "Didn't I say I'm off the clock in the morning? Come back in the afternoon. Remember, 10 Voldor. No discount this time." The female voice responded impatiently, opening the door. This was Lumion's first encounter with the woman named Ethans. Her flaxen hair tumbled to her shoulders, her similarly colored eyes wary and her face etched with apprehension. She appeared to be 23 or 24 years old, with average looks that could only be described as delicate. Her face and clothes were clean, and her red dress exposed a generous expanse of fair skin on her chest. Charlie excitedly informed Ethans. "Did you know? Margot is dead. He's really dead." Ethans stared, dumbfounded. After several seconds, her slightly hoarse voice turned sharp. "Is that devil truly dead?" "It's true." Charlie nodded without hesitation. "You can finally escape that devil. You can finally live like a normal person." Ethans glanced around, dazed, taking in Lumion's expressionless eyes and Charlie's animated countenance. "He's dead? He's dead?" she murmured, thinking of the money that had mysteriously appeared in her room. As she started to believe Margot was indeed dead, her vision blurred. Tears poured down her cheeks. She couldn't help but squat down and bury her face in her arms. Her sobbing intensified, becoming more uncontrollable. At that moment, footsteps echoed from the staircase. Lumion turned his head and saw a young man in a white shirt, coat, and black jacket approaching. Behind him were Margot's 3 thugs. The lad's brown hair was slightly curly, and his face bore prominent creases. He strode up to the weeping Ethans, crouched down, and grinned. "I'm Wilson from the Poison Spur mob. From today onwards, I'll take care of you on Margot's behalf. Charlie's excited expression froze. Ethan's cries halted abruptly. Slowly raising her tear-streaked face, she saw Wilson's smile, and the shadow his body cast. The shadow was so dense that it couldn't be dispelled. Lumian observed quietly, his head imperceptibly raised. On the way to the first floor, Charlie, who had been silent for a long time, couldn't help but ask, "Is there really no end to the suffering of the poor?" "I like something Aurora Lee wrote," Lumian replied, his face expressionless. "Sometimes we're not the ones at fault, but the world." As soon as he finished speaking, 3 people stomped up from the first floor. They were police officers in black uniforms, black vests, white shirts, and strapless leather boots. The 1.85-meter-tall officer leading the group glanced at Charlie and Lumian and suddenly stopped in his tracks. Pressing down on the gun at his waist, he asked in a deep voice, "Charlie Collent?" Charlie was stunned. "It's me, officer." "What's the matter?" The officer gestured at his colleagues and took out steel handcuffs. As his 2 colleagues encircled Charlie, he said with a serious expression, "You're suspected of murder. We're arresting you." "Murder?" Charlie's face displayed shock, fear, and confusion. Lumian raised his eyebrows in surprise. As the officer handcuffed Charlie with his colleague's assistance, he informed him, "Madame Alice is dead."